Hi, my name is Tim Lane. I'm a graphic novelist and illustrator. Welcome to my Patreon page. You might know me from one of my graphic novels, Abandoned Cars or The Lonesome Go, or you might know me from my comic book, Happy Hour in America, or some of the comic anthologies I've contributed to. If you have read any of my work, you might know that I'm interested thematically in something I call the Great American Mythological Drama. For the sake of brevity, I won't get into it too deeply here, but will explain it further in the written portion of this introduction. I'm currently working on an interpretive biographical graphic novel about the actor Steve McQueen. I say interpretive for many reasons, but mainly because I'm using the life of Steve McQueen as a conduit to construct a picture of American culture that both shaped Steve McQueen and was partly shaped by his influence. This book is artistically inclined, heavily influenced by the work of Michael Ondaatje's The Collected Works of Billy the Kid and Coming Through Slaughter, as well as David Kluwel's Jack Ruby's America. In other words, it is not a traditional biography. This graphic novel, whose working title is Just Like Steve McQueen, is as much about the art of writing, drawing, and sequential storytelling as it is about its protagonist. Upon first glance, the completed book might look like a sequence of short stories all linked by a chronological exploration of McQueen's life. My interest in the difference between what is true and factual as opposed to what is myth and rumor will be explored in the style in which I'm making this book. Each chapter in the book will be told from the point of view of a different narrator. For example, one chapter will be written from the point of view of someone who claims to have known McQueen's father, another from the point of view of a woman who claims to be one of McQueen's former lovers. Sometimes the narrator will be me. Sometimes the narrator will be directly linked to McQueen, others only tangentially. Sometimes it will be McQueen himself, and on like that. My intention is to also create various chapters using a genre of cartooning that would be appropriate and applicable to both the mood of the story as well as the era in which the story takes place. Steve McQueen died in 1980 when he was 50 years old. At the time I was only 9. Known in his time as the King of Cool, he led an extraordinary life. As a boy, he was abandoned by his mother and never knew his father. Spent time in street gangs in Indianapolis and L.A., and was abused by his stepfather during a short-lived reunion with his alcoholic mother. He was a reform school kid. He had joined the Merchant Marines after lying about his age, wound up working in a Caribbean brothel, hitchhiked and hopped freight trains across America and into Canada, worked for traveling carnivals, and had joined the Marines, all before he was 20 years old. By the time he landed in New York City's Greenwich Village in the late 1940s and early 50s, and still without any particular direction in life, he already had more physical life experience than most people attain in a lifetime. A lot of travel, adventure, and haplessness. Themes you might recognize if you're familiar with any of my previous work. McQueen's story, even by the age of 20, doesn't lack drama or excitement, and the rest of his life, I assure you, is just as interesting. But beyond that, it is how much McQueen was a man of his time that interests me, and how the backdrop of his life speaks broadly of that elusive American myth I find so interesting, and how his legacy is still relevant today. Despite having died almost 40 years ago, his image is still used to sell watches, sunglasses, leather jackets, cars, and of course motorcycles. But that fact, I argue, is only the superficial tip of his contemporary cultural relevance. His story is both simultaneously unique and classic. McQueen's is a rags to riches story, an outsider story, a story of a person who fought doggedly to remain his own man, without rulers. He descends from the philosophy of rugged individualism. He was anti-intellectual and relied heavily on his considerable street smarts and instincts. And among these other things, his is a story of a true American rebel, all themes that fit into the greater idea of what I think of as the great American mythological drama. I'd like to ask for your support with this project. Above all else, I need time to complete this book. It has already taken me 3 years since I began. The first year was spent entirely just on the research phase. In the past, I've made my living as a freelance illustrator, but the trouble is, the more freelance work I take on, the less time I have to work on this book. In a perfect world, I'd like to have this book finished within the next 2 to 3 years. But in order to do that, I need directed, focused time. And of course, I need money. But there's more to it than that. Writing graphic novels can be a lonely business. I think it would be fun to have a community of people to converse with as this project rolls out, to get feedback. I look forward to opening my studio up and showing you some of the things that only my poor wife and a few of my friends know I'm excited about. Such as the miniature bust of McQueen I sculpted to shine noirish lights on for reference purposes, or the creations of Sam Shepard-inspired original stories I've written in which McQueen will star and be directed in Robert Mulligan-like style. Crazy things like that. You'll find various incentives listed on this page that will be offered to you for your varying levels of support. Please consider patronizing my book project, and thank you for taking the time to watch this video.